Please welcome M. Night Shyamalan.
Hi, guys. Thank you. So sweet. That was emotional just hearing the music again.
Yeah.
Coming in.
Before I start asking you stuff, I just want to thank you for being here and for being a part of this retrospective. Your films evidently mean so much to so many people, myself included, so it's a real treat to not only just revisit these films in a cinema, but to have you here to talk about them, so thank you.
Oh, I mean, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's very emotional to see your films together like this, and for you guys to come and you know how you know quickly you all came to do this and came to see this movie and all the movies, and it means so much. You know, I just finished shooting a movie. We were just talking, and I just finished shooting another movie here 2 weeks ago, and not even 2 weeks ago, and yeah, you get reminded of the struggle of each one and facing you know your demons and facing the world and you know how it is to be an artist the artist that you want to be. You know, I used to hear a story about, I don't know if it's a real story, but a story of like a party in New York and the Beatles were there and they were like, you know, the Kings, and then Bob Dylan came in the room and they got quiet, the four of them. They were like, it's Bob Dylan. And that the level of his conviction and his integrity that came in the room with him, and it's like an aspirational thing as an artist to, you know, how do you spend your lifetime doing things you believe in and then deal with whatever. They will love you or not, or you're ready for you or not, or you're changing the mores or not, but it's you. And so just kind of reflecting and going, gosh, how lucky to be that kid that, you know, got to do this for his whole life. I remember I'm not sure how old I was, 33 or something when I did this, and just remembering it. So just a lot of memories as I was sitting there.
Well, I feel like the Beatles here because I feel like I've been
No, not at all.
wanting to talk to you since I was like 9. So thank you again. Anyway, I want to start by asking you about location. And so I want to ask you about Pennsylvania because most of your films are set there or sort of spiral out of characters who are from there, but it's pretty evident in watching your films, especially this earlier period, that setting, location isn't just like a backdrop for you. Just in thinking about how you connect historic Philly with your characters in Sixth Sense, what you generate from like Bucks County farmland in Signs, and with this film, you're doing something similar with like the state's like untamed woods and also sort of the state's kind of creepy estates. So I want to ask you what draws you back in again and again to Pennsylvania, what like lives there for you as a storyteller?
Kind of thematically, I guess I keep thinking in a certain way here with you guys, but you know, our strength as human beings is that each of us has a very unique point of view, and it's a combination of all the things that are us, the things we're great at, the things we're not great at, our blind spots, the things we do see more than others, and the how we grow up and where we grow up, and that specificity is part of the superpower that is each of us. And so, as we made the decision, my wife and I, not to go to LA, just it was an unconscious decision of like that. I think I would disappear there, and I know myself. I'm very delicate that way, and I think I would get, you know, if everyone in every table was talking about making movies as commerce, I would lose it and want to do what they say, and you know, I'm so influenced that way. So it's almost like I was trying to get as far away, and so then I was like, well, being an Indian who was born in Pondicherry, India, and I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that's pretty unique, and that combo is that. I think that the thing that makes it unique, and so to celebrate the Pennsylvania of it all, and so there's loves that are deep that you can feel without you know, that I love these fields and these places, and I was thinking of a little thing that popped into my head. You know, I'm a huge Andrew Wyeth fan. Andrew Wyeth's a painter, and he painted this area, and he did live near us. And his paintings were very influential for this movie. And Bob and I got a chance to go to their house for dinner when he was like 80-something.
Yeah, the Chatsford.
Yeah, the Chatsford. And so this was kind of an homage to his paintings. And so he's from Pennsylvania as well. And a really interesting story that it's just a little anecdote is he wrote a letter to me about how much he loved the village. So it was like from Dear Night, and it had this beautiful thing, and Andrew Wyeth. And I went to get it framed, and the framer stole it. And it was like this thing, like you can imagine what this was. I can't, it was like the most precious thing in the world to me, this artist that's one of the great artists of my life. And I was thinking about that standing there as I was hearing it. And I was like, oh my God, all these thoughts.
That's tragic.
But in a way, it's very beautiful, right? It's like that, you can't hold it. It's ephemeral, but it was there. This artist said this to me, and I can't read the words anymore, but it was there.
Yeah. But Pennsylvania is also kind of a creepy state. And
where are you from?
I'm from Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're Pennsylvania, right? Yeah. I thought he was going to be like New York next or something.
No, and I mean, obviously your films, I think have instilled that sort of image of Pennsylvania for me, but I mean, there's clearly sort of a lineage of kind of like Pennsylvania Gothic works that I think you're even like sort of attentive to with your selections when thinking about Night of the Living Dead, another great Pennsylvania horror film, The Blob, and so on. And so I'm just wondering like how conscious of this legacy of sort of Gothic Pennsylvania works you are, or were you back then?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, so you live there. It's kind of beautiful and quaint, and and a perfect setting. It's like my version of, as you said, an American Gothic, like a setting that is America to me. I don't know if you feel that way, but like it's slightly back in time in certain places, and then you can set anything that puts supernatural against it is quite amazing. And perhaps the masters that did this before, Night of the Living Dead and The Blob, and they understood that innately, and that juxtaposition of the simple and the quiet versus this kind of extraordinary.
So it's also the birthplace of the first American horror novel.
Is that right?
Yeah. Wieland.
Oh yeah.
Charles Brockden Brown.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think about that book with the village, but anyway, all right, my next question is I want to ask you about how you conceived of this sort of creature design, those we don't speak of. Are you drawing from like folklore or?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We had, I think Crash McCreary was a designer, I think, on that one, and a creature designer was just brilliant, and he was also on Lady in the Water. And then Anne Roth, the costumer, who's like the greatest costumer, and she and I and he and all, we just would talk about what would this creature be if it was this person made this up? What would they use? How would they do it? And what, this mythical creature that this person is, pretending to be. And so it was a fun exercise. That whole movie was kind of me trying to do things a little bit more in a certain way. Like I had the actors all stay together on a property. And again, another memory that just happened here. We drove here, my wife and I. We passed a building here in Manhattan where I met. I'm going to be very, very like vague about this. An A-list actor who was going to be in this movie, and I said to this A-list, who I love, by the way. So I'm not talking, I really love this guy. And I said, hey, this is how I'm seeing it. You guys are all going to live like on a farm for like months, and you're going to learn to shear sheep, and you're going to do, churn butter, and I got it all set up. And he was like, you can do that, but you're going to find me at the Four Seasons. And then I was like, this literal line, and then I was like, oh, maybe this isn't the right person. So, and I passed the building where that happened on the way here.
Well, can you talk about sort of finding your cast? I mean, this was like Bryce Dallas Howard's like first major film role. She's incredible.
Yeah, she was amazing. We saw her, my wife and I saw her on a play at the Public here. She was playing Rosalind, I think, in As You Like It. And I was like, as soon as I was watching the play, and she's the daughter of Ron Howard, who I was friends with. as a director. I just met him at dinners and like that. And so I went to this play and saw her, and she had that spunk, obviously in that role specifically. But and then when I met her after, I was like, wow, I think this person could do it. So then I met her for lunch, and I gave her the script, and she was like 22 or something at the time.
I mean, the performances all around are incredible. Everyone is so committed to the bit on multiple levels, I guess. And I think, once you toss aside this idea of monsters lurking outside the woods, what you get is this movie about parenthood and about protecting your children or failing to protect your children. And if there's one theme that I think is sort of connecting all of your work, it's that each of your films are about family. So I guess I want to ask, back in 2004, what ideas were you having or thinking about in terms of parenthood, family, that sort of found its way into this story?
First of all, my daughter's here. Where are you? Where are you? Raise your hand. Where are you? There she is. That's our youngest daughter, and she had never seen The Village.
Calling you out.
You guys saw it with her, so I was like, you have to see it with this crowd today. So I can't wait to talk to her after this. She's our youngest, by the way. To explain why she hasn't seen it, she was a big scaredy cat when she was younger. You tell him. And so she didn't want to see anything that was had any scary things. So now she's older, and she has her boyfriend there, and so it's all good. She's not mad at me. I think she would say, and her two older sisters would say that this is how I think. That I would be like, okay, I'm gonna make a property. We're gonna get rid of cell phones, and you don't need to, get rid of everything. We'll be fine. There's chickens. Let's have eggs. And so we have a kind of quasi version of this right now. This is kind of but this actually came from that feeling of wanting to protect them. And do anything, and then going, what if I had all the money in the world? What would I create to protect them? And then could I find like-minded people? And then what would that mean? What would the group have to have gone through to make that kind of commitment to leave? But it also came from a real-life place, which is where we live. There was at that time, there was an estate right next to us that you would drive by every single day. And it had a fence line, and it was from a very, very, very wealthy family, and it's a famous place, Foxcatcher. So that's right next to us, and so at that time it was all this fencing that went on for miles, and you'd hear all the rumors. There's a mental institution in there. Someone was murdered in there, and that's all true, by the way. And and so yeah, and so that was kind of I kept driving by it and driving by it and driving by it, and I was like, I wonder if you could make a whole life there.
I guess thinking about this this notion of security that you're talking about is evidently felt in the atmosphere of the country around this time, this sort of post 9/11 moment. Is that something that you were very conscious of as you were writing this, or is it something that you see now in retrospect? I mean, do you find this movie as a kind of political work in that way?
At that time, I think a lot of people saw that, and it's probably true. I mean, it was obviously very traumatic, and for us, and as it was for everyone. So it's there, but it's a pervasive feeling of trying to remember the things that were beautiful before that. My parents were just, they're 80s, and they drank their milk in India from a cow that was in the backyard, and and the things that we were like, oh my God, farm to table. And they everything was farm to table back then. They were like, farm to table, that's everyone's house. And and so there's certain things that were so beautiful, and even my mom was saying, the lights went down and you go to bed. It was it. It was, that was, you're not catching up on Seinfeld. It was you go to bed and all these beautiful things. And so part of me, as they know, the girls will know, that kind of, what is it about history that we're losing, and as everything's moving so fast, and I was just saying to some of the people at work, I was like, gosh, I feel bad. These were 20-somethings I was talking to, and I was like, I feel bad. There was a moment where you could walk in the field and you were just in the field. It wasn't something's buzzing and I wonder what this person, and you could find out what everything was in the world. That was a moment where there wasn't that. And so it wasn't just about that time necessarily, but a feeling that I have about nostalgia about it, and probably romanticizing the nostalgia because it came with a lot of negatives as well, limitations. But
Yeah, it's I think the ideas I was saying in the introduction. I think the ideas in this movie I think are even more relevant today than they were in 2004. This was a movie that came off the heels of like an enormous string of successful movies, and I think a lot of people were maybe expecting a certain kind of movie going to The Village, but you gave them this Gothic love story and kind of this moral fable. And I wanted just to ask you, like, how you were thinking about sort of the revelations and that your movies were known for at that time, the twist, and just how, especially during The Village, when you were writing it, when you were making it, like how conscious were you, or just how were you thinking about sort of steering towards or away expectations at this stage?
you know, probably good or for bad, I wasn't really thinking about it. And so just made what I loved. There's certain things in retrospect that I learned and understand. Some I learned and some I understand. Like learning would be if the movie is partly scary and majority love story, and we sell the movie as just scary, then you're saying the restaurant serves this kind of food, and then they get there and they're getting a different kind of food. And so no matter what, if you have those wrong expectations, the framing is everything. So that changed a kind of like a philosophy about how my movies were sold, this movie here. So it's a philosophical thing about, do you pull only the things that would make it an easy sell to sell it? But it should, for me now, it's you have to represent the balance properly of the film. So that the framing is correct for them. But then this is the dramaturgy thing I'm going to say, so it might be kind of boring, but this is the part I understand, but not necessarily would I change about this, which is, and I say this too when we're making movies now, which is when you're mashing genres together, which is what I do, you can move up into higher octane genres, but you can never go down. So you can go drama to mystery, right? You can knock it up to mystery, but then you can't go back down to drama. And the audience feels that, like the reduction of stakes and the reduction of the kind of high octane. Then you can do mystery to thriller, but then once it's a thriller, which let's just say it means physicalization of a mystery or something, you can't just come back to kind of like, I wonder who did it. Let's just talk about it over tea, you know? And then it could kick up, kick up, kick up, kick up. And so this is kick up, kick up, kick up to the highest octane, which is horror, and then going, it's a drama. And so, and again, that was the intention. But so I understand that rule that I'm breaking in there now, and I understand it. I didn't understand it when I was doing it. I did it. So, but I get it, you know. And so you're gonna, you know, there's like 13-year-old boys who came in, they wanted to see blood, and they were like, let's go. And then it's like, you know, James with the violin, and they're like, so they got, they thought they were getting pizza, and they got, you know, this other thing. And
I was that 13-year-old boy, but I've grown up. Yeah.
But you sensitive and sweet.
Oh, thanks. All right, I only have a couple more questions. I know the audience probably has so many. But I know that this movie also had a very different ending at first. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I always question about whether to talk about it or not. I don't even know if I've ever talked about it. Have I ever talked about it? Have I? I've talked about it? No, talk about it, you're saying, yeah. But have I ever talked about it? There was a completely different ending on this, and it was, Bhavna saw it, and it was really, really cool and polarizing, though. And I guess I just didn't have the guts to keep it. It was, gosh, I even say it, jeez. Yeah. No, it was originally, she comes out, and it kind of cuts to the perspective of a guy driving a truck, and rap is playing, and I picked a song of a album that hadn't come out yet, which was 99 Problems from Jay-Z. So literally, the movie goes from that music and that thing to suddenly you're in a car and you hear 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one, and this guy, and you're just in complete shock. The whole audience is like, what the hell? And then you jump to this dude, this random dude's point of view, and he almost hits this girl who jumps over a fence, and then the whole interaction that they have, and and then there's a whole thing with this driver and the gas station attendant, and and they're modern and they're crass and all this stuff, and you see this innocent person, and she goes back, and he conspires to have her go back, but it was so aggressive that literally, I remember that we showed it to an audience, and they were like, half the audience was like, this is my favorite movie of all time. And then the other half was like, I was so offended, I can't believe it. And I was like, and I think, and of course, Bob saw both of them, but yeah, I don't know. But I love this one them making the choice again to stay, taking a vote, and to continue it. Was a beautiful moment too. So when this is an amazing cast. I mean, it was an honor to direct them, and William Hurt, who passed away, just an incredible actor, an artist who taught me, how to be. It was like, I'm directing these people, but they're so much older than me, and they know so much more, and so it was this kind of teacher-student relationship that you have with all these wonderful artists.
Well, we're running short on time, and I do want to make sure we get some from the audience. So please raise your hand, and a microphone will come to you. We can start right you in the middle.
Hello. You chose a very specific year to set this movie, or to pretend to set this movie. Why did you choose that year, and what research do you do after you choose that year? Is that before you start the screenplay, after, before you shoot? Where in the process is that?
Oh gosh, I'll be honest, I don't remember why I picked that particular year, but then once we did do all the what would they have, and what would they dress like, and what would and what they would have done. We went through the process with Ann Roth and everybody that was involved, the production designer. What would they be mimicking? What are the limitations? Because it's a construct that they're doing. They're doing what we're doing as a film company. They're doing the exact same thing. And so they're figuring it out. Okay, don't use this for the paint. You can't, because they didn't have access, that kind of thing. So we did as much of, we tried to stay as faithful to that time period as possible. So that was I love vocabulary, nomenclature, restrictions, to say this is it. This is all we're using, and we're not using this color for this, or we're using only this. So that was kind of a wonderful exercise to say, what would these characters do, which is very similar to what we did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. The blue. Yeah. I think it's blue.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Hi.
For this.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. Do you have in your own head what you think Ivy's color for Lucius is?
That's so sweet. When you said it, I had this kind of, I don't even know what it means. Maybe one of you kind of new agey peeps in here could tell, but it's like purplish with a little bit of pink. That was what was in my head. I'm gonna tell you a really quick anecdote, which was the score, which is one of my favorite scores James did. We really wanted a violinist, a world-class violinist. So Hilary Hahn did all the violin, and Hilary Hahn is one of the world's best violinists. And she's just kind of like this little 5-foot girl, and she's very young, and she's a virtuoso. And she would come in and she would do these solos, and like the orchestra would when they clap, orchestras, they do this to clap, and everybody's like in awe of her. And James, I was like, okay, great. Tell her we want it to bend like this and have this emotion. And when the character does this, so he goes in, and I watch him go in, and he talks, and he comes back out, and she said no. And then I was like, James, tell her she's working for us. Tell her. And then there was another moment in the scoring where I was like, I got it. Let's move on to the next one. We're running out of time. Let's go. And then he goes in and says, we got it, Hillary. And then I see him talking, and then comes back in, and he's like, she wants to do another one. And I'm like, let me handle this, James. So I go over there, and I walk in. I say, hey, Hillary, we got it. That was amazing. We got to go because we're running out of time. And then she's just like steel in her eyes. I would like another one. And I'm like, And then I come back to James and I said, I want to do another one. Let's do another one. She was super amazing. Like we were getting, all in tears as she's recording that score. It was a magical thing. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead. Any questions?
Yep. Further back. Yeah.
Hi, we're from Philly. We came up to see this.
Aw.
We got to see you with the symphony orchestra and James Newton Howard too. That was terrific.
Say that again. What did you just say?
When you were with the Philadelphia Symphony Orchestra,
Oh,
James Newton Howard, we got to
oh.
be there for that. That was terrific. Playing some music from this,
Amazing.
among others. I wanted to, following up on that, ask about your use of color on the whole in the movie. Obviously, it's something the characters are explicitly struggling with and talking about. Was it always central to the movie in your idea of it? And what were some of the influences on your color palette? Thank you.
Yeah, I get the Andrew Wyeth paintings were the primary interest, and then again we were bound by the colors of the time to some extent, and what were the blues and the grays and the yellows, and what did they look like? And there's certain colors that are just not, they weren't ever used in that time. So, but color is generally, and again another vocabulary. It's everything. It has an impact on you guys, and is a tool for storytelling. I mean, film, I believe, is the best form, the highest form of art, because it's all the art forms together. It's dance and poetry and lighting and painting and fashion and you name it, and to take advantage of that as a language and understand it, just so that I'm not passive about the decisions about color. And in this one, taking this palette, this Andrew Wyeth palette, and the time period, and the Andrew Wyeth palette is because the area is so old, and these buildings are hundreds and hundreds of years old, and so they have this feeling and colors to them. And where you are in the United States and where the sun is, it hits you in a certain way, and those colors, and then how can we break from it with the red and use it in a way that doesn't belong there. And so, we generally have those conversations about colors, and have it with the costumer. In this last movie, we all, as a group, decide what colors to not use, why we're using it, which characters are going to get the benefit of those colors, and how it influences the others, those kind of things.
If you haven't already spoken about this, I don't think you did. What does Planet of the Apes mean to you, and why, without spoiling any of our critical thinking, why did you pair it with this movie?
Yeah, well, before I answer that, how many in here have not seen Planet of the Apes? My God.
Thank you for programming it.
Wow. Can you name all the Kardashians? I'm just kidding. Gosh, how can I talk about this now? I don't even like to say that. But gosh, how can I tell? You mean it'll be, I guess, it's a very profound, I'm going to really talk around this. It's going to be unsatisfactory because I can't ever spoil this for all of you guys that have just raised your hands. But there's a kind of a profundity, like when I saw the original Planet of the Apes, it really, really affected me profoundly, in terms of film structure and what it was saying, sociologically, in every way. And super powerful, and yet was working as a ride all the way through, and that there was a kind of a primitive fear at the center of it, primal fear of like almost an animalistic fear, literally. And that was, we imbued that when we were talking about kind of, with James and everybody in the sound design and all that stuff about the village, this kind of, this creature that lives in the woods, and what the kind of want to evoke is, juxtaposing that kind of animalistic thing against this Pennsylvania backdrop. I was asked to remake the Planet of the Apes when I read, at some point, I forgot what year it was. I think Tim Burton ended up doing it, but I was asked to do it, and if you read the book, which I hope you guys do, and see the movie, it's a seminal moment of what they did structurally. That's all I want to say about it. For those of you, the half of you that've seen it, we'll talk about it later at the bar. But yeah, they're very tied in that way for me. A community and and learning something about the community and the world, or the larger world, the canvas that the story is being told on. That's a great question. Did you guys hear him? He was saying, has my ideas about knowledge and then the concealing of that and the harm that it could do, has that changed? Is that correct? So funny, that question presupposes that there's a primary harm rather than a good, which immediately as you asked that, I was like fighting it. I'm like, no, this is good, this is good. Shivani's like, oh man. But if anything, I feel more so. Again, I just did a tirade this morning about phones and social media and mental health and kids and all that stuff. So it's like, if not more so, maybe it's backward thinking. There's always a cost-benefit analysis about it. But yeah, and that's what the struggle was, which is we have the knowledge to save the children in this movie. From it opens with the death of a child, and was it worth it? Did we do it? Because there was a way to save that kid, but you got to give up all this other stuff that is precious. And yeah, it's you have to find the people that weigh that much. And there's religions and things that are like, we don't take medicines and we're gonna pray, and then the person dies, and then that's the way God wanted it. It's not. We don't want it to be necessarily that as much as it is an understanding of what we've lost, so, which is, I shoot on film. I just shot this last movie on VistaVision. We do everything. Yes, man, look at this crowd. I love it. And that means something to me, that it's on celluloid, it's not digital, that we're reloading, VistaVision cameras, and there, the 400-foot mags, that means it's going twice as fast as regular 35. You got 2 minutes, so you're reloading every 2 minutes. And that's this stuff. Is it worth it to do it that way? There's so much more faster ways to do it. And well, we're all standing there and the actors are emotional and they're reloading again after 2 minutes and everyone's quiet and we're staying there. And I think there's something in there. There's beauty in the limitations of that right in the middle of the thing, I have to keep stopping every 2 minutes that we roll to reload, and we're all quiet. And the preciousness of that new load that's coming in. This is a little bit of the things that, so probably I'm giving you a long-winded answer of no, it hasn't changed. It's still.
Well, all right, speaking of limitations.
Oh, come on, one more.
All right, yeah, all right. Yeah.
I know you guys got to watch the other movie.
All right, if you say so. I'll let you pick.
Oh, no, that's too much
all right,
pressure.
All right, all right, your hand's way up. Yeah.
The shot that always gets me when I watch this movie is Ivy holding out her hand, expecting that it's going to be Lucius that takes it and not one of those we don't speak of. And that sense of this is a movie about like trying to prolong innocence and trying to be very protective, but it's also a movie about accepting risk and embracing it and knowing that something terrible might happen, but taking that risk into your heart. And I wanted to know how that element of it as well kind of impacted how you were approaching the creative process here.
Yeah, so beautiful. What a beautiful question. Thank you. That moment is so, I'm teared up even thinking about it. For me, and I say this to actors, when I feel that you're gonna like come in an audition and you'll do it any way I want you to do it, and you have nothing to offer me then, there's non-negotiables, and everybody in Hollywood knows there's non-negotiables. There's like no money, there's no amount of money, there's nothing you can say that would ever tempt me to do it the other way. And so in some ways there's a non-negotiable when she's like, I'm going to give every last second for the person that I love to come back, and if I perish, this is a non-negotiable, and so this kind of something about having things that are so sacred to you that the stakes don't matter. What it is, how we build a life, and how we're doing this life, and how to do this with integrity for you guys and make these movies so you can hopefully and I'm not, certainly not perfect at it, and I get corrupted as well, but the aspiration is that to be that pure as Ivy. And the way she did and the way Bryce did that moment where she was like, no, and they're screaming at her, basically say, evaluate this moment differently. And she's like, no, it's really clear to me, And if there's even a chance, 1% chance or even less that he's out there, I'm gonna hold my hand out here till he grabs it. And I know he's gonna come in. I know how much he cares about me. And that faith and just kind of being in peace of that and the creature's coming. It's, and then when James scored that, and I was like, it's one of my rare things that I've done in slow motion too, there where I would like go to slow motion. And, but yeah, thank you. So hopefully I answered it somewhat.
I feel like we should take the other guy's
Yeah,
question.
please. You were so sweet. Yeah, you were so sweet to defer.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wanted to talk about your directing of children and young actors, green actors. Obviously, Bryce, 22, but relatively new in her journey, and the Visit and the Sixth Sense. You've taken so many wonderful children performances and put them to the screen. And I wondered if you approach directing children the exact same way you do adults, and that's what brings out that performance, or if you approach directing them in a different way. And as you've had kids and raised kids, has your way of directing children changed at all?
I would say it's a great question. Thank you. And I think theoretically the last question is it's a beautiful one, because I think it made me think about my belief systems, which are everybody's extraordinary, first of all. That is my belief system. And I tend to want to direct children or inexperienced actors and theater-trained actors. Those are the two that I love to work with, and you see this movie's full of both of those. The world's best theater actors are on that screen as well. They've like all won Tonys and this, and because the children are right, and I've just answered this for someone else, the children are right at the faucet of inspiration, of truth. They're right there. They don't have any craft at all. They're just rawly right there, and I can bring the craft by saying to them, this is who she is or he is, and she's feeling this way or he's feeling this way, and we need to protect her. I always tell the kids, we're going to do this together. We're going to bring her to life together. And when you did this, she felt this. Are you sure she feels that way? Is that what she would feel? And this child is imagining it, and they feel so purely. And then the theater trained actor knows how to get to that raw faucet as well, and both of them are good with the way I do movies, which is long takes and not much coverage, and so I'm trying to catch something very, very raw and messy and real within my hugely formalized way I shoot. Like this with me and Roger Deakins, we wrote out every single shot, how we were going to do it in my house, and we did the whole thing, and then get raw actors to be in there to messy it up, and I hopefully with our girls, treated them like they were, equals, not as, how are we doing today? Are we good? It wasn't like that, It was, hopefully, they always felt seen in an extraordinary way. And so the children, I called them on it, on their truth about it. And I'll say, what you just did made me feel this about him. And are you sure that's what we want to feel about him? And they'll tear up, and then they'll say no, and then I'll say, what do you think he feels? And then they'll say something, and they're tearing up about it, and I'll be like, roll camera right now, roll camera, right as soon as we're having that conversation, and they're right there, and we go. I remember when we did Signs, and Abigail Breslin did her scene at the table. She was just so, I talked to her, and she went first, and she was so emotional and so real. Joaquin and Mel were like, I'm not going next, forget it. It was so right at the faucet, and so always having these children. And I think Bryce, even though she was in her 20s, was still at that place, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. I hope I answered that. They're angels, so it's like you learning from them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nate.